Well, Connor started as a freight agent back in 2022. I think you started with Landstar, and since then, he's built a $2 million freight agency. And again, he's remotely located in Armenia. So I want to welcome you to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Dennis. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know that we've been talking behind the scenes for several years now. And, I was always wondering and hoping that we were going to get a chance to finally meet. And here we are. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about your journey. So let's dive right in. First of all, what were you doing before you started your freight brokerage, before you started your freight agency? What exactly were you doing for a career?
First off, I'm just 25 years old. Before the logistics, I was just a forklift driver, to be honest. After the school, I just went and just worked as a forklift driver. Then I just realized, so why not? In this industry, I can just work with the US. A lot of companies were here in Armenia, working remotely in that niche, in that field. And I started my journey with Landstar.
Yeah, okay. So you were a forklift driver, and then you became a freight agent, independent freight agent through Landstar. And that was about 2022, right?
Right.
Okay, good. Back then, when you were a forklift driver, what was your income range? Give me a sense as to what your income range was. I mean, obviously, if you can try to convert it into US dollars, because the majority of the audience would be US based, but about what was your income range before working as a forklift driver?
Well, it's really hard to say. About maybe 400, 500 bucks per month, something like that.
That's US dollars, right?
Right.
Okay. And as a parallel to that, right, in 2025, how much did your freight agency do in gross revenue?
2 million plus.
And I'm assuming that you made a whole lot more, you stuck a whole lot more profit in your pocket than $400 or $500 a month.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We don't need to get into the exact details on how much you made. What's ultimately important is that you went from a job that was kind of touching on logistics a little bit, and that you were operating a forklift, and then you jumped into your own freight agency. Within just a few short years, you now have a $2 million business. So congratulations on that. Did you have any sales experience prior to that? I know you're a young guy. You didn't have a lot of sales experience.
No, never.
Yeah. Okay. So you jumped into this business without having any experience, which is very common. I mean, it's very common, but it's a struggle for some people. So I think we're going to dive into that a little bit more. So when you first started, be honest, what scared you the most? What was it about the business, or what was going on? What was it that scared you the most? Help me to understand that a little bit. If you can bring yourself back to 2022.
Most scare I have joining the ALG, to be honest, because in Landstar, I was just an employee, just dispatching trucks. So that's not something big. It's not complicated. But I realized when I will be with ALG as a freight agent, I need to do sales. And that was the main pain point for me. I had no clue what the sales is. That was the most scary thing for me. But
Gotcha.
thanks to you, I just could pass through to that scare.
Gotcha. So when you were at Landstar, you were actually a dispatcher employee, and then you migrated to an independent agent at ALG.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to verify that because I had that a little bit off. Sales is the thing that you were most scared of because you had never done it before. You were probably a little afraid of rejection, and you're like, how is this all going to work? Am I going to get any clients, right? So when you first started, how did you approach the sales arena? Because I know you're not big on cold calling. It's not your favorite thing to do. Talk to us a little bit about maybe how you got your first client.
Sure. Thanks to you, I can mention that again. I realized what I can do with LinkedIn. That was my major point to do the sales. That was the main tool for me to do the sales. And because of that, I got my first client from LinkedIn. Of course, it wasn't in heavy haul niche, but there was a Chinese warehouse exporting some freight from China, moving that across the US. That was my first client. I can't forget them, moving dry van loads. So that was my first client, maybe making $50 or $100 margin with them, but the experience was good.
You never forget that first client. I still remember the first check I ever got from my first customer.
Right.
And, the thing wasn't how much you made on that load. It was the confidence that you got, I can speak for myself, and I'm just kind of trying to maybe your sense of it. It was the confidence that you got that the idea you had actually worked, right? It actually worked. I became a freight agent, I got a customer, and now I made 50 or 100 bucks.
Right.
That confidence has a tendency to build momentum, right? Because before that, the hardest part of becoming a freight agent or a freight broker is getting that first load, right? Getting that first load out of the way, getting it off your back. And then at that point, it's kind of more like wash, rinse, repeat, right? It's kind of like developing a little bit more of a system. So talk to me a little bit about your LinkedIn system, how you have actually gotten clients through LinkedIn. Because I think most, if not all of your clients so far have come through LinkedIn, or at least originated originated and started on LinkedIn. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So talk to me a little bit about how that works. Give me maybe if there's a real life example of how you were able to connect and start a conversation with one of your prospects or convert it into a customer. If you have anything top of mind, that would be great.
That was the last months when I created my LinkedIn profile with Landstar, last couple of months that I quit there. So about a year, I can say LinkedIn gave me nothing. No, saying nothing, I mean no client, no margins and anything. But I know like I need to work on this for a long time, and in a longer range that will be beneficial for me for sure. Then I did everyday posts about my niche, about what I'm trying to do, about life maybe sometimes, posted some funny jobs as well. And I try to connect with people, with the client that are in my niche, sending them messages sometimes and getting their phone numbers and trying to call them, and this everything without using any AI tool or something like that, because I see a lot of like people posting with AI. No one will read it, believe me.
So basically you got on LinkedIn when you were at Landstar, but you weren't really seeing a whole lot of results, and then you migrated over to ALG. You got a little bit more aggressive with your LinkedIn. You started posting daily about your niche and about what's going on in your business and maybe just some different interesting content. And then that first year you built a pretty big network. I mean, you built a lot of connections that first year, if I'm not mistaken. I remember you posting about it. How many connections did you end up getting your first year? Do you remember?
About 1,000 or 2,000 between us.
Yeah. So you got a couple thousand connections your first year, and those are pretty targeted connections. I'm assuming the majority of those are either carriers or potential shippers, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so you were posting content, and then what happens from there is connections start coming in, you maybe start a little bit of a dialogue through LinkedIn, and then you pivot that over into a phone call. And what I've always called is more of a warm call rather than a cold call where you're calling somebody that doesn't know who you are and they pick up the phone and they're absolutely clueless. They already know who you are because you've already connected with them on LinkedIn. So that's kind of your system. That's your secret.
Right. That's correct.
And it's not really a secret, and it's not really that difficult. It's really just some basic fundamentals, and you used content as the engine, and you use LinkedIn as the distribution method. And then from there, you just built some connections and started building a warm market.
Right.
The reason why I'm kind of focusing in on that, Connor, is because people think it's really complicated. They think there's this fancy software you need behind the scenes, and they think you need to be a copywriter, and they think you need to have all these crazy qualifications, but you really don't.
No. Just be yourself. I mean, even with don't like grammar or something in English, you'll read right. But anyway, just do anything that comes in your mind, even if it's not right. But anyway, post it. Like, try to find people and say something. I mean, don't use AI, anything that will do something for you. People will realize that. They'll see, hey, I'll be ChatGPT. I mean, not interested.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to filter out AI content these days if you've spent much time on LinkedIn or social media. So I want to kind of touch on what you just said, though. I mean, one of the challenges that people have, or at least from my experience, when you tell them to start posting content on LinkedIn, is they become really afraid of what people might think, right? And they think that everything has to be perfect, right? So they fall into that paralysis by analysis challenge. And what you said, I think, was very, very important. Even if it's not perfect, even if it's not 100%, post it anyway, because what you're doing is you're building that muscle. You're building that habit, right? If you I challenge anybody who's listening to this, post content every day for 30 days. Whatever it is going on in your business, whatever it is you're thinking about in your freight niche, whatever is going on that's business related, the more it relates to your potential prospect, the better, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Do that, and that muscle is going to develop. Is that kind of how you developed it? You just forced yourself to post every day?
Right. Exactly. When I was posting LinkedIn, I didn't have a client, but after 2-3 months, someone just texted me, Connor, I see you are in heavy haul and I like that. I have a couple of heavy haul shipments. Can you call them? I say, yes, of course. And next day we move 3 or 4 shipments for them. And inbound customers just seeing you post, and they realize this guy knows something about this niche.
Right. Yeah, perfect. Because the great thing about LinkedIn is even if your post doesn't go viral, which 99.9% of your posts are not going to go viral. Let's say, for example, 300 or 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 people see it. It costs you zero. And if they're the right people, that can convert into leads and into conversations, which can convert into business. Everybody thinks they need to go viral. It's not about virality. It's about having the right content in front of the right people, right? And that's about you building your network and then understanding your niche so you can speak about it intelligently. And that's what you did. I remember when you first started posting heavy on LinkedIn, that's when we really started talking a lot more. back and forth was when you started posting and growing your network on LinkedIn. I remember that. I was watching you very carefully as you kind of navigated the whole process, and obviously you've done very well. So let's move forward here really quick. Was there ever a time during these last few years since you've had your own agency, was there ever a time that you almost quit? Was there ever a time when things were going so bad you almost quit? And if so, why?
I'll be honest with you. Yes, I had times that I was almost quit and burn out. I mean, that happens with everyone, I believe, in this business, because sales is really hard. I lost a couple of customers. I had like zero. That was I believe 2024, and then I just thought maybe I need to quit this business because I got customers, I lost them. But next year, 2025, I just started working again. But in this year, we're hustling like much more, and we opened the offices. We have like team now. So
what helped you through that phase? What helped you push through that phase? What was it? What was going on, or how did you migrate that, or how did you get through that?
Because I was keep watching the LinkedIn post of a couple of like famous brokers in LinkedIn posting every day. I see these guys are moving loads every day. So what's going on? Maybe you do something wrong, Connor. And I think 100% I'm doing something wrong, because if people are moving loads every day, even in winter, even the crazy winter, so that doesn't mean market is slow, business is slow or something like that. That's mean I am slow. I'm not doing sales. I'm doing something wrong. And that thought just keeps me like pushing and motivated me to keep moving, keep going forward.
So you found inspiration in some people that you were following that were having success, and then you started kind of looking at what you were doing right and what you were doing wrong, and you started tweaking some things, and then at that point that effort kind of built some momentum and you landed another client, and then that pushed you over the hill.
Right.
I love it. That's perfect. So here's the $64,000 question. And I think a lot of people are probably joining this because you're heavily involved and you've now become kind of an expert in this whole heavy haul niche. Why heavy haul? Why did you decide to get into heavy haul? What was it about heavy haul that drew you?
Well, I started that with Landstar because my friend sitting next to me was doing heavy haul. He's now with me actually in ALG. I was doing his like job, the pictures driver sending to him. And it was interesting to me. It was really beautiful, like a huge piece of freight like on the trailer. That's not just a dry van, a couple of pallets or something like that. A huge transformer, 200,000 pounds or something like that. I can do just one load, make the same profit than the 200 dry van loads, for example, and the high value price and the difference that I'll be like doing something different that 60 or 70% of other brokers in this niche. I mean, in this business. Plus, that's really interesting. That's beautiful. Getting those pictures. I have about 200 pictures in my computer. Like I'm watching them every time, and that's a pleasure for me. I mean, that's really interesting. Every time it's different. I didn't move any single load that was similar to the other one. Everyone is different.
What I love about that, Connor, is that you saw something that was interesting to you, and you made that your niche, and that's what you decided to pursue. Because the question I get all the time from people is, what niche should I pursue? How do I find my freight niche? And I tell everybody, listen, if you have experience doing something, for example, maybe you worked in produce, or maybe you worked in the steel industry, start there. Because it's something that you're familiar with. Or if you have an interest, if you have something that you're interested in, maybe you're interested in heavy equipment, maybe you like to drive a bulldozer, or maybe you have some heavy equipment of your own, or maybe you operated heavy equipment at one point. That's a great place to start because you have some knowledge there and you probably have a little bit of a network there. And so what I love about what you did is you were at Landstar, and obviously Landstar is very well known for doing heavy haul and specialized stuff. And then you saw it, and then that got you interested. And then obviously you had to kind of peel back the onion and you had to kind of learn a lot more, but that's what sent you on your journey, right?
Right.
So it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Everybody has a tendency to overcomplicate this whole niche thing. I think that what you said there is very important for people to understand. Again, where you start in your freight niche, and as you evolve your business, you're not just limited to one niche. You can evolve over time. Matter of fact, your business, we were just talking about it before we hit, the live stream here. You've now evolved your business into some other niches as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's all about other niches.
Yeah, you do a lot of heavy haul, but you're also doing some other niches as well, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm getting clients from other niches, but I'm not involved in operations, to be honest. I had like 3 customers just on Friday, 2 of them moving reefer, produce, and 1 moving warehouse stuff with drive-in.
And that's your team that's doing that, right? Because you've got a team of people working with you now.
Yep.
That are helping you expand the business, and they're focusing on their own niche, right? And learning that niche. And then that's obviously helping grow your business as a whole, correct?
Yeah. And
Awesome.
thanks to my team, I have like team doing drive and reefer, drayage, hazmat, so I can diversify. If I got anything I know whom I will give that client.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So let me ask you this. What's the biggest difference between selling heavy haul versus selling, like, for example, dry van?
You mean sales, getting the client?
Yeah, like the sales process or the types of conversations, or just, you've gotten both types of clients before. Tell me what do you think the difference is?
The main difference is that the heavy haul client doesn't care about the price first, because the freight that they are moving will cost a couple of $1,000,000. No one will like round for $1,000 or $2,000 if someone is like getting the quote for more expensive than the other one. They need to know you first, because either did you really need the LinkedIn, or your company must be well known in heavy haul. Otherwise, you will never get a heavy haul client because their freight is really expensive.
So there has to be a lot of trust there because of the value of the freight, right?
Right.
Before we went live here, we were talking a little bit about that. And you said it's not uncommon for these loads to be 10 or 20 or 30 or even $50,000 or more for an individual load, correct?
Correct.
And you've had a couple really big loads even this last year. Could you describe that? I mean, I think some of those loads were north of 100,000, correct?
Yeah, the last project, like 2 shipments I hold, each one was $160,000. 20,000 check, I see that.
Yeah. So the cool part about that, and why I use this phrase all the time, if anybody that follows me, you hear me say, complexity creates opportunity. Complexity creates margin. And so what Connor's done is, rather than focusing on the least complex type of freight, which is like typically van loads, he dove right into the deep end and started doing heavy haul, which is probably one of the most complex. But because of the level of complexity, you heard him say it yourself, you don't have shippers arguing with you over 50 or 100 or 200 bucks, right? Because the value of the freight is so high, that's really, it's just not something they quibble over, because they understand the big picture of, if something were to go wrong with that, they want to make sure it's done right. They're not focused on cheap. I mean, of course, price is always a part of the equation, but they're typically not going to quibble with you. I mean, if you come in at 20 and someone comes in at 10, they're probably going to question you, right? But if you come in at 11 and someone else comes in at 10 and they know you and trust you, you're going to get the business.
I can give a good example for that.
Perfect.
Last year, I hold a leap head crane, a big one. And my client told me, Connor, your price is $18,000 more than the other vendor. But anyway, I'll give this to you.
And again, that really comes down to trust, because it's one of those deals where he might have been able to get a cheaper price, but on the back end, what might it have cost him in the big scheme of things, because he didn't have that same level of trust. So again, I tell people all the time, if you're running into problems with price, it's not a pricing issue. It's a trust issue. Okay. When people say price, they really mean trust, right? So remember that as you're going through your process. If you continually struggle when you're talking to shippers and they're saying, oh, you need to be $5 cheaper, or you need to be $50 cheaper, it's really not the price that's the problem. It's the trust, right? So I just wanted to hone in on that for a second. We're going to do a few more questions and then we're going to jump into Q&A. So is it harder to get customers in heavy haul than it is in like the van niche or the reefer niche?
Yes, 100%. It's much more complicated than trying to get a warehouse or any produce customer, because only on Friday I got 3 customers in van and reefer. But for heavy haul, my prospects that are like $200-300 million revenue per year, and they're like, let's say I got a transformer customer, they're producing transformers that can cost $3 million. The quote I got last week, transformer $3.5 million, the load price, the freight price, I mean. So
yeah, that's a major project. So that brings me to an interesting question. What types of shippers typically need heavy haul? Like what types of industries or what types of, sub niches inside of the heavy haul industry? Talk to us a little bit. I'm assuming like heavy equipment manufacturers, that's an obvious one, but what other ones? Because you mentioned a transformer company. I mean, what other types of industries or products are really conducive to heavy haul?
Sure. Oil and gas, sure. Energy sector, earth moving, construction, crane companies. I mean, they need to move their cranes.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. The first crane company is my client in the United States. Number 1 crane company. And yeah, there are a bunch of them, to be honest. Like steel companies for sure will need like heavy haul operations, aerospace. There are lots of them.
Yeah. Think of things that are really heavy or over-dimensional type stuff, right? Stuff that's not going to fit inside of a van, right? Stuff that's not going to fit on a conventional flatbed, right? Stuff like that. You probably see them, like the things that I see around here quite often is like turbine propellers on turbines, right? You see those all the time. That's a perfect example of something that might be in a heavy haul or over-dimensional load. Okay. So So here's a question before we wrap up. How long did it take you to hit your first $10,000 month in commission? Do you remember? I mean, roughly? I mean, I know you started with ALG in 24. Do you remember what month you started with ALG?
2023, the second quarter.
Okay, so you started mid-year 2023. So it's been a little over 2 years, 2.5 years. How long did it take you to hit your first $10,000 month in commission, let's call it, right? Where you as an agent were making that in commission in a month?
It took me between 4 to 5 months.
So it took you about 5 months to hit your first $10,000 month in commission.
But without knowledge of sales.
Right. You know, without having a background in sales and coming from a forklift job, migrating into a dispatch job, and then jumping headfirst into your own agency. I think that's pretty amazing. And you guys can hear the phone in the background, and I don't even care. The reason why I don't care is because that's the life of a freight broker. That's the life of a freight agent. If your phone's not ringing, you're probably not making any money. Okay. So, all right. So I think that's going to wrap it up. What's a typical month look like now, maybe in gross sales? I mean, for example, like maybe in January or February, approximately what do you think you did one of those better months? Which one was better and how much did you in gross sales?
Sure. The 2026 will be like much more better than the last year. Because only on January we're at clean profit more than 100,000.
So in January you did over 100,000 in profit.
Right.
Right. And so obviously your commissions are obviously going to be much higher, but you have a team. And so what are you projecting in gross sales for 2026? If you had a crystal ball, what do you think that sales are going to end up at in 2026?
Thinking like about 5 million or maybe plus.
And then last year you did about 2 million.
Right.
So 2025, you did about 2 million. Then this year, you're going to do 5 million. And then let's do that crystal ball one more time. What about 2027? What's your goal?
2027, like maybe more than 15 million.
Perfect. I love it. Awesome. I love it, my friend. Well, listen, I think we're going to wrap it up. Here's the last question I'm going to ask you. And I'm going to ask you this because I get the question all the time. Okay. And I want people to hear it from you, not from me, because, they always think I have some sort of an agenda. But the fact is, here's my question. Is freight brokerage still worth it in 2026? In your opinion, is it worth it if they're a driver or they're a dispatcher or they're someone who's just very entrepreneurial or is good at sales or whatever ingredients they have? Is freight brokerage still worth it in 2026 to pursue as a career or as a business?
1000% yes.
I mean, obviously, this is what you've put all your eggs in this basket to grow this business. So, I mean, what do you think, or how do you feel about the whole AI thing? Do you think it's going to help brokers? Do you think it's going to hurt brokers? Do you think maybe it's a little bit of both?
Well, right now, me and my IT guy like creating AI program for the brokerage that will help to do the quotes immediately. When you get like a quote from the client, it will quote immediately using a lot of sources, a lot of tools there. I mean, I have no clue about AI and like programming, to be honest. The guy that with us, he knows. And when it will be ready or when I'll have more information about it, sure, I will share that with you.
So AI and technology is going to help, in my opinion, and you can disagree with me if you want. I think AI is a tool that is going to be incredibly powerful for freight brokers and freight agents to help them scale their operations and to increase profitability, not decrease profitability. Here, perfect example. Yes, you might need less employees because you have better technology, but I think you're going to see one-man operations, individual agents like yourself that can do 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or maybe $50 million in sales because of the automation behind it. But that doesn't replace the agent. It doesn't replace the broker. It enhances the agent, enhances the broker. And you just came up with a perfect example of a rating tool that would make a broker's job a lot easier, right? But it's like a hammer. right? A hammer is only as good as the hand that wields it, right? If a hammer is sitting on the table, it's useless, but put in the hands of a skilled carpenter, you know, they can build things that are amazing. And I feel the same way about brokerage. Right. Listen, Connor, it's been great. I appreciate it. Why don't you let everybody know before we wrap up and jump into Q&A, if they want to connect with you, maybe where they can find you on LinkedIn, or if you want any parting words, and then we'll jump into Q&A.
Sure, they can find me on LinkedIn.
So it would be Connor Haratunian. I mean, they're not going to have a whole lot of people with that exact same name, unlike Dennis Brown, where there are thousands. So you'll find him on LinkedIn. Listen, I really appreciate you being here. I want to give you a big congratulations because I've watched you from early in your journey. I'm really proud of you. I think you've done an amazing job, and I look forward to seeing that $5 million and maybe $15 million sales in the next couple of years.
Thank you very much, Dennis.